a 3-part series about the crucifixion of Jesus. The scripture references are John 8, chapter 18, verses 28 through 40, and then 19, 1 through 6, and Matthew chapter 27, verses 24 through 32. Let's get started. So the Pharisees have just arrested Jesus, and they brought him to Pilate, and they're like, hey, we got this guy, he's a criminal, we gotta charge him. And Pilate is wondering a little bit if that's true, and he's questioning them, and they're like, hey, buddy, we wouldn't bring you to him if he didn't commit any crime. And so he goes, okay. And so he goes and asks Jesus, and we see in verses 33 in chapter 18 of John, he asks him if he's really the king of the Jews, because that's why the Pharisees were mad at him. And Jesus says, are you asking because you really want to know, or are you only asking this because others have said it about me? So then after this discussion, Pilate goes out to the Pharisees and says, I can't find any fault in him, he's not guilty. And then Pilate tells them that there's this yearly thing that they can release 2 prisoners on the account of the people of who wants who to be released. So at this point, it was either Jesus or the man named Barabbas, who was an actual robber, apart from Jesus, who just taught from the Bible. But the people who were heavily influenced by the Pharisees, they chose Barabbas. And so the next thing that happened is that Pilate sent orders for Jesus to be flogged. Now what does flogged mean? It means Jesus was whipped, and he was not just whipped with a little string. These were hard leather straps who had pieces and chunks of metal, so that when the person was whipped, it would break open the flesh. It would clamp onto the flesh and open it, sometimes so deep that it showed bone. And to be honest, not many people survived that. So then after Jesus was basically ripped to shreds, the Roman soldiers decide to dress him in a purple robe when he's already stripped, basically naked. And then they weave a crown of thorns and place it in his head, like in his head. And they mocked him for a great deal of time and punched him in the face. And so Pilate had Jesus brought back out to the people, and he said, I found nothing wrong with this man. Why should I punish him? But then as soon as they saw him, the high priests and the temple guards, they all went crazy and just started shouting, crucify him. And apparently they went so crazy that Pilate noticed that it was going to turn into a riot. So he did a very significant thing. He washed his hands in front of everyone. And then he said, I am innocent of this blood, which means this is not on my hands. And the people said back to him, let his blood be on us and our children. Which means they said even our children will be guilty of what we did to him. And so then Pilate gave the orders for Jesus to be crucified. And as they were leading him out of the city, he was forced to carry a giant cross by himself. But the Jews didn't know that what came next was actually a part of God's plan. Like and subscribe for part 2.